What is happening in the Rameswaram cafe in Bangalore? Finding something contaminated in your food is a complete breakage of trust between the customer and the restaurant in question. But what if such a contaminated food turns into a multi-lakh extortion plot and eventually we find out that these allegations of a multi-lakh extortion plot were false? What started as a simple airport meal has now emerged as a national controversy. Was this a story of a 19-year-old kid who was standing up for his rights because he was served contaminated food? Or was it a planned multi-lakh extortion plot? This story has many twists and turns. We can see that a guy was served contaminated food and then an allegation was placed on him and eventually an FIR has been filed against the restaurant only because these allegations have found out to be false. Let's see what happened in the Rameswaram cafe in Bengaluru. It all started on July 24, 2026 in the Terminal 1 of Kempegowda International Airport, Bengaluru. There is a lot of restaurants there and one of the very famous restaurants in Bangalore is the Rameswaram cafe. So anybody who passes through that airport and sees this Rameswaram cafe would like to quickly grab a bite before they board their flight. This was the story of Nikhil, a 19-year-old guy who had an 8:45 a.m. flight to Guwahati. So at 7:45 he felt hungry, so he went to this Rameswaram cafe and he ordered a Pongal and a coffee. These are very famous South Indian dishes. But when he received the Pongal and he started eating it, he saw a scene which would send chills down everybody's spine. He saw a live worm moving in this Pongal. But Nikhil was a very nice guy. He did not make a scene. Though the people around him got angry, they took photos of the food, he politely gave the dish back to the restaurant. He didn't want a replacement meal also. He just walked away because his full appetite was gone seeing this worm on this Pongal. In a normal world, the story would end here. It was already time to board his flight, so at 8:45 he went to the boarding terminal and he took his flight. He thought the story was over. He didn't even think about it, but as he was in the air, something else was happening in the Rameswaram cafe in Terminal 1 of the Kempegowda International Airport in Bangalore. It was July 25, 2025 and suddenly in the news, something is coming up. Suddenly the Rameswaram cafe has lodged a complaint with the police saying that somebody tried to extort them of 25 lakhs. Nikhil was in Guwahati, he thought he was nowhere related to this. But slowly he came to know that his incident, that he found a worm in his Pongal, was the inciting factor for this complaint and his name was also there in the complaint. He was confused. He was not even wanting a refund from the Rameswaram cafe people for his Pongal. But now there is a complaint against him saying that he tried to extort the restaurant of 25 lakhs. He was confused. What started as a worm in this Rameswaram cafe turned into an extortion racket against Rameswaram cafe. Of course, it was a brilliant PR move. The claim by Rameswaram cafe was the moment this incident occurred, there were around 5 to 7 people in that restaurant who tried to extort money from them. They even said that they received a call at 10:27 am demanding this 25 lakhs. The police began investigating. But to their surprise, they found out that at 10:27 am, Nikhil was actually in the flight to Guwahati. That is, he was in the air. There was no way possible that he could have made that call. And also, police gave a list of numbers which the Rameswaram cafe management had given the police saying that the calls came from these numbers. And Nikhil vehemently told that I have no relation with these numbers. Now the police started investigating very thoroughly and the truth was slowly beginning to unravel. This controversy went on for months. On one hand, we have Nikhil, a 19-year-old kid who was just hungry and he wanted to eat before he boarded the flight. He found a worm in his food, but he politely declined the refund also what the restaurant gave. He gently gave back the food and he boarded his flight and he went. But he is now being accused of trying to take 25 lakhs from the restaurant. On the other hand, you have the restaurant who's claiming that they are a victim of this blackmail because of a worm found in his food. Now, the public had split opinions. Some were saying that Nikhil was the one who's trying to extort money from the restaurant. Some were standing against the restaurant also. So, there was divided opinions, but the investigation was going on. See, the evidences were all for Nikhil only because the time people were telling that the extortion call was made was 10:27 a.m. That time Nikhil was in his flight on his way to Guwahati. There is no chance that he would have made the call. Also, Nikhil has clearly told to the authorities that there is no relation between the numbers which the restaurant claimed that the call came from and him. So the evidence was for him. By November end, the police had actually concluded their investigation and an FIR was filed. People were thinking against who this FIR was filed, and to their shock, the FIR was filed against the Rameswaram cafe. The contents in this FIR shocked everyone. The first section under which the FIR was placed was section 274, which tells about the adulterated food with an intention to sell. People will be penalized under that. The other sections under which the FIR was filed was the one which shocked everyone. The first is the 217 section, that is providing false information. That is this whole thing of a call coming and asking for 25 lakhs to the Rameswaram cafe in response to this incident, which the restaurant claimed was found out to be false. And then there was another section which was added, which was section 228. This section 228 tells about false information with evidence. That is, in addition to this false information which they gave, they have submitted some false evidence also. Now the police are examining the CCTV footage of July 24, what happened in that airport area, in the restaurant. They are also getting testimony from the people who were there in that area. That is, who were having food at the same time. What happened in that area is now all being collected and the final report will be out soon. This has actually shocked the nation. What was a simple thing of a worm found in the food has turned into a multi-lakh extortion racket, eventually found out to be a false allegation. See, this is a story about a single person against a single restaurant. But let's look at the bigger picture here. See, the first thing we need to see is the food safety in restaurants in our very own India. See, a recent survey has shown that around 38% of customers who go to restaurants to eat find contaminated food in the food which is being served to them in one way or the other. So this brings us to the critical question now, is the food safety standards being compromised in India for profits? The second thing we need to see is the customer rights. See, Nikhil went there, he found a worm, he politely declined the food, he even declined the refund and he just went to board his flight. But see the allegations which were placed on him. They were saying that he is trying to extort 25 lakhs. So we need to be very vigilant about our consumer rights also, because that is what helped Nikhil. See, he had all the evidences for him. Though the public opinion was divided, he had all the evidence for him and eventually the law took its course. Also, one more thing we can see here is how restaurants can actually manipulate such incidents. See, there was a worm in the food. Easily the restaurant could have just apologized and moved on. But in turn, they tried to change the narrative by telling that this was actually part of an extortion racket and people are trying to get money from us. See, lies and all we cannot hold for long, and police have found no evidence against this extortion claim, and we can clearly see that whenever people are trying to hide the truth, that will eventually come out. Do like, share and subscribe me for more interesting videos.